in order to take Elvis off a pedestal, you need to take other people out of the gutter and understand that they're all on a level. Like Tom Hanks said, we're all the same. Like, girl, we're all on the same level here. No one's like, and that's what I really liked. I wrote this down. It's going to be a life story, not a love story.
Yeah. I swear I do that at the beginning of every episode. I go, yeah, without fail. I'm scared.
Literally. And I think I say I'm excited at the start of every single one.
People click off immediately after that. They're like, this is so boring every day.
You're right. I think okay, so
okay, let's get into it.
Let's dive right in. So the trailer for the Elvis biopic has been dropped.
Yes, ma'am.
And just off the top of your head, like, first impressions.
Okay. I really liked it, honestly. I think it looks very promising. I think Baz Luhrmann, I think that's how you pronounce his name, has packed a lot of Elvis info, like crucial info, into hopefully what is like an average length feature film. So
yeah,
I'm pumped. There is a couple concerns which we obviously are going to talk about.
We'll get to those, yeah.
Right, but overall, I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I do have some thoughts as well, like not criticisms, but just like, I don't know, things I noticed and things I wanted to sort of discuss. But also, yeah, to me, it looks really promising. A lot of the details were so, if you're an Elvis fan, you notice them too, like the suits, the costuming.
Yeah.
A lot of the sets and stuff like were so to a T, like, I don't know, really. And they didn't just, I'm going to dive right in right now.
Go for it.
I liked that they didn't just include like recognizable or iconic Elvis suits. They went for like the real, what he actually wore daily and also on stage.
The two things that stood out to me most, well, actually three. Number one, right off the bat, the lace shirts. I was shocked. Yes. Utterly shocked. I was like, I cannot believe that and like the different color ones too, and even the shirt that he wore when they're Vernon and him are crying because Gladys died, like the ruffled lace. Oh, that stood out to me. Also, the butterfly suit.
I know, I clocked that too because that's my favorite suit, and I was like, there's no way. And in that clip, I was like, that's Elvis. Like, that's a clip of Elvis. You know what I mean? Like, I was really sold by the mannerisms and the obviously character study that went into this performance. I think definitely will be really, really like interesting to watch on a big screen.
Definitely. Yeah, I know a lot of people, even my friends who like, they know of Elvis because of me and like obviously like basic stuff, but like they were watching it and they're like, oh my gosh, like that movie you just did looks like the video you just showed me the other day. And I was like, girl, yeah, like,
yeah.
That, which obviously that can go into another topic that we're going to talk about, but I also just really wanted to quickly say another outfit choice where those I think like 69 shirts, like the floral shirts.
Yes, the rehearsal shirts.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I noticed that too, and honestly, it made me really excited because like things like that can make or break. You know what I mean? Like the accuracy, it looked really impressive. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Obviously it opens with Tom Hanks as the Colonel's sort of narration and point of view. I thought that was really interesting. The perspective they're taking is like going to be his perspective.
Definitely.
At least in the trailer anyway. I don't know, obviously in the course of the movie, whose perspectives they'll choose to do. But it was really coming off in the trailer as it's going to be the Colonel and Elvis's relationship and like how that blossomed and like how it sort of functioned, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I will say too, like I was afraid. I think we were all not afraid, but we were all like a little skeptical cautious. when we were hearing about like what this movie was going to be about, because we thought it was going to be a Colonel movie, and like and like even when the trailer came out, I was like, oh, they're gonna make Colonel's like this really like, I don't know, they're gonna play up his character. But there was one part that like stood out to me in the trailer when Kennedy was shot and like Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, and the colonel says in the trailer, like, oh, it's a tragedy, but it has nothing to do with us. And then Elvis says it has everything to do with us.
I loved that.
It was so good. And that showed me, like, it's not going to be like, all hail the colonel, because I feel like that moment was like,
right,
Elvis kind of
defying him.
Yeah, like put Colonel in his place and been like, no, this is what I believe.
I just realized I interrupt you so much. I was like playing back one of the old ones a couple of weeks ago, and I was literally like, stop interrupting her. Like, I literally interrupt you every night, so I'm very sorry about that.
Girl, I don't even realize, but go off, because you always go off, so
please.
Period.
The first thing I noticed, like you said, you noticed the costumes and stuff. The first thing I noticed was the circus/carnival metaphor they were really pushing. I loved that, because that's so important to the Elvis story and why he was, like, I don't know, advertised as such by the colonel, you know what I mean? Like, obviously the colonel had this carnival background and these ties to, like, these, like, crazy performances. And even at the end of the trailer, it said, like, the best show in the world or whatever.
Yes!
I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, he drums up Elvis as such, like, an act or, like, a performance, which is so interesting and a really good, like, stance to take, I thought, for the trailer. I thought that was really well done. So yeah, that excited me.
I agree. That honestly gave me chills, because we, like you said, like, he was like a carny, not a carny, but like he like worked with chickens, I think, like before.
Yes,
like,
he used to put chickens on hot plates so it looked like they were dancing, and that was his speciality,
his tactic kind of thing. So I think that I think in a lot of different instances, but this being definitely one of them, like, it shows like the story behind like so many, not myths, but just so many tired old like stories of like, oh, how did Elvis and the Colonel meet, or how did Elvis, like, what was the story behind the 68 special, or like all this stuff. I think that, like, even from these little tiny bits of the trailer, the backstory that is getting put into it is like so important, and I'm excited for that.
I really appreciate the showing, not telling sort of way it's been done, by the way. Like, I don't know, again, this is just from the trailer, I haven't watched the film, it's not out yet, but like, just from the trailer, it's not all like being said, it's just being shown, which I like as well. Something I really wanted to point out that I noticed, like, the first thing I noticed while watching it, except from the circus stuff, was the use of the music. And I know you have your thoughts about that, but what I noticed was the electric guitar, the use of the electric guitar in the 1950s scene. A lot of people would probably be like, that's not right, but literally the point of that, obviously, the electricity and the impact of Elvis's performance was like shown so well through that. Like, because girl, obviously in the 50s, Elvis wasn't using electric guitars, and I made a note and I was like, it could have been so easily an anticlimactic moment in the trailer for Elvis to come on the stage and like blow everyone away with just like acoustic guitar, which is obviously what happened in real life. But for the trailer, I think it's way more impactful to use that electric guitar, especially because you're only given a short amount of time. I don't know, again, in the movie they might use acoustic and be more accurate, I don't know, but like, it doesn't matter to me, like, because the trailer, it really caught that vibe of like Elvis was electric, literally on the scene, like he was giving that vibe, and it caught that with the music they used, and the gospel music too. I really liked the incorporation of that.
I couldn't agree more. That scene, again, girl, I had goosebumps with the whole thing, but that scene, like, with like his hips and like the people screaming and stuff, that 50s scene, like, that really stood out to me. And then you also just said about the gospel music, but one thing, maybe my favorite thing about the trailer, is how they included the Black church in Tupelo. I was so excited. I was so pumped.
It was so, like, it really paints the picture of what the film's going to be like, I think. And a lot of people were sort of anticipating this Priscilla Presley focused love story that we've seen in so many other biopics that honestly fall flat. That's a personal opinion, whatever, you can argue your case for things that have come before it. But I think this one is really going to be the definitive Elvis biopic, because it's just coming out with so much tea. And like, I do have a small critique. I think the trailer maybe showed too much of the movie. I really felt like I've watched the whole thing now. I'm not going to be like surprised. Not that I don't already know Elvis's life story, but I think it really like doesn't leave anything to the imagination. And I sort of like, thought,
of what's going to be included. Like, I know what you mean. Cause a lot of people that I've talked to about it, like, and I even said this in the beginning, like, it looks like they got a lot in there. Like, they really packed
Yeah.
it full. And, like, so I feel like definitely they did touch on a lot. But I'm very interested to see how Priscilla kind of fits into the story, because in the trailer, I didn't see like any scenes of like Elvis meeting Priscilla or a young Priscilla. I only saw Priscilla when she was older, so I'm like, how are they gonna bring
Right.
up that
Well,
topic?
I watched the trailer a couple of times because there were so many clips and it was so like, if you've watched it, you know what I mean. They're showing so much in rapid succession.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I didn't see any movie years. I didn't see any of the 60s other than the comeback. I didn't see like him like with Anne Margaret, for example, or it like shooting film. I didn't see any of the movie years.
Mm-hmm.
Practically no army years either. Like I saw kind of him in a uniform maybe at one point. I was like, hmm. And then
Yeah.
Priscilla, I saw with Lisa Marie, and in the comeback special, he sort of gave her a kiss or something,
Yes. Yeah.
which is accurate because she was there. Well, she claims she was there. I think she was there.
Yeah.
From what I can remember. But after watching it a couple times, she does appear really quickly. He like she's like standing against a wall of what I assume is their first meeting meant to be like depicting. And he's in
Ooh.
his uniform and he sort of goes to kiss her, but then it's like very quick. It's very quick and like rapid
Oh.
little clips.
Oh
So
my gosh, I know what part you're talking about. And I literally thought that was Anne Margaret, but it couldn't have been because she had black hair. So I definitely know
yeah,
what you mean.
yeah, so I was thinking that could be her, but it could also be like Dixie or something because I looked at who was cast. This interested me. I looked on IMDb because I was like, who's actually like listed as like characters in this film? Because I was like looking at the trailer. Obviously, there's so many characters, and I was like, who are these people? Like, who are they meant to be?
Right.
Um, has been cast, and like, there's a
Oh.
Dixie cast, so that will be interesting because I think in a few of them they do cast like an early love interest like before Priscilla, you know what I mean, just like a
Right.
hometown love interest, because they usually depict Gladys, so I think they want to show Elvis like having a girlfriend at that time as well because he did.
Right. Right. Right.
um
Right.
but I thought that was a little interesting thing. But I thought that was a positive on my part that they didn't show too much of Priscilla because I think if it was all about her, I just couldn't enjoy it.
Or even all about like the romantic part of Elvis. I feel like this movie is going to
Mm-hmm.
focus so much on like his drive for his passion and his drive for a career and like what he wanted to do with his life, and then how like the loves of his life kind of fit in there along with that. But I really do think it's very much focused on like oh, they said that he said that one quote in it, like the preacher said that when words are too hard to talk about or
Oh,
something, sing.
if things are too dangerous to say, sing.
That's
I
it.
I wrote that. I wrote some quotes down so we could like really reference, and I
Yeah.
loved that because my mom. I watched the trailer on my own first, then I watched it with my mom, and then I watched it with my
Same.
dad.
Yeah. Yeah, of
Literally,
course.
and everyone, of course, is like picking out different things that they liked about it because like you really like can't just watch it once and get everything out of it because it's such a long trailer, and this
It
was really
is.
like an in-depth trailer. And I actually watched is it Baz or Boz Luhrmann?
I think it's Baz. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
I watched the trailer where he gave a little intro beforehand as well. And
Yeah.
he sort of said, oh, I see trailers as like a window to the movie, right? Like it's
An
not a movie in
invitation.
itself, but like it's going to show a lot. And I was like, okay, interesting that he said that because I was really like, they're not like keeping any secrets at all. They're not like, you
No.
know, normally I watch a trailer and when the first little snippet trailer dropped, they gave nothing. They gave nothing away at all. Like it was literally a bit of Unchained Melody and then that's all you got.
Yeah.
And then when the real trailer dropped and I saw the timestamp like 3 minutes, I was like, this is a whole music video. Like what's going on?
No, literally, it was so long.
Yeah, it really interested me. It's like, okay, so I did end up watching it a couple times to see what everyone else picked out, and my mom picked out that exact quote, like, oh my god, he's so tea, like I'm really like everyone's so hyped. Like I showed it to my friends, I told them to watch it, like everyone is like into it at the
Yeah.
moment, and it's really exciting because Elvis does deserve a good biopic, and this is like the opinion I'm getting from the community as well.
I think more than anything, like that's all. I mean, like we can all say our opinions and everything, but at the end of the day, like he's still being thought of 45 years after he died to make like huge budget, like huge name director movies about him.
Yeah,
Like he's so relevant. He is so relevant to this day. And like, and this movie is being made by somebody who is a fan, somebody who has worked with Graceland to probably, produce it. Yeah. Like get ideas for like costumes and like scenery and aesthetics and everything like that. And I think that gives me a lot of hope because I do worry a lot about, my biggest concern is like the medication situation and how they're going to depict that. And also the Priscilla thing. But I think that because is a fan, and because he's worked with Graceland, and because EPE is so on board with this, as you can see, like them promoting it and everything, I think that they are hopefully educated enough to like accurately tell this story. And that's what Elvis deserves the most.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Another thing I just wanted to quickly say that I noticed is like they are really showing it from start to finish. They in like the most possible way they can, by the looks of the trailer anyway. Again, this is all based on the trailer. Right. But I really found it cool how obviously the actor has been really well researching Elvis, you can tell. I really, really liked his mannerisms for the early years of Elvis, like the 50s, and when it went black and white, the footage in the trailer, and his eyes were like that half lidded, that like trademark Elvis like stare he had, the hair, everything was done really well, I think, and like really represented Elvis, not just in one gig as well, which I found interesting. Like they really showed such an array of gigs, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, they didn't stop after the 68. They didn't. Like we get Butterfly Sue Elvis. Like that is just literally crazy to me.
So and impressive.
When Unchained Melody started playing, girl, oh my God, I lost it. And like that's just like, if they go all the way to 77, if they show his death, like, oh my gosh.
Right. It will be like trailblazing for them to see how they even like portray it. Like, because we're so used to that like newscaster reading that, like that's sort of been done. And if they do that, I understand, because it's sort of not a cliche, but it's just sort of something everyone sort of leans into, is like that newscaster or like that telephone call of like Elvis Presley, like, you know what I mean?
It is definitely a sensitive topic to act out, you know?
Exactly. And I think they'll handle it well, and it'll be interesting to see actually how they end up depicting that side of things. One of the things I really noticed as well when I first watched it was the lightning bolt was like heavily featured in early Elvis, like young Elvis.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Him reading the Captain Marvel comic at the very beginning. And the casting for the young Elvis, I think they really got that good. Like I saw, and you wanted to bring this up, and I know you did, but like a lot of people are sort of bitching about, he doesn't look like Elvis, Austin Butler, I think his name is.
Yes.
But girl, no one does. Like
this is like, I could talk about this for a hot second, but honestly,
please do, like, please pop off, because I have a lot to say too.
I definitely have been talking to multiple people, and I feel like this is a number one critique for a lot, which is surprising. It's surprising me, but like,
it surprised me.
Because anyway, but like a lot of people are saying how he doesn't look like Elvis, how they're afraid that people are going to start comparing Austin Butler and Elvis, like all this other, like he's not Elvis, no one will ever be Elvis, but like we've been new, and like also these are the people that are standing like tribute artists, which I also stan them, I love them, but I fully know that like when I go to see them, I'm not seeing Elvis, just because girl, Elvis is not here. Like he cannot play himself in a movie.
I think it's so hard to give an impression of someone who is so well liked and so well known for looking a certain way. Like Elvis is a very distinctive looking person, but also with that, you're never going to get anybody who everyone agrees, that looks like Elvis, because no one of all does look like Elvis. I think for certain films, I always draw to the Johnny Cash film Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, of course.
I think, am I going to mistake him for Johnny Cash?
Girl, no. It's about the rule of thumb for biopics.
Exactly. It's not about like he has to be the spitting image of Elvis, because no one ever will be, but it's about capturing those mannerisms, the voice, the look, but like all of that you can suspend your belief to watch someone depict Elvis. You don't have to sit there and be like, well, I know he's not Elvis, so I'm not going to enjoy this. Like, Do you think Elvis was going to resurrect himself and play himself?
Literally, that's what I've been saying. But also, I feel like for me, it's more important. Like, I don't care if you look like him or not. I care about how you play him. If you're going to come out here and play him cheesy and like stereotypical and like, because he does have a lot of iconic movements and he's known for a lot of like the hips and the karate on stage in the 70s and things like that. It for me, it's more important how you respectfully handle that and like not make it like such a caricature or like a comic almost. I think that watching the trailer, it's really apparent, like you said before, that he really did do his studying on like how Elvis moved and how even like when he talked, my mom was like, that's not Elvis's voice. And I'm like, yeah, T, it's not. But like, he's not being like, oh, hi, honey. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like so many other people do. Like he wasn't trying too hard, but he also was like, you could tell he was trying.
I know. I really enjoyed the bit, like the bit that kind of sold me was the bit where they were on the Ferris wheel and he sort of said, I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to fly. He sort of repeated it. And that was so Elvis to me because obviously that's not like, I'm not going to be watching this like Elvis never had that conversation because it's not about whether he really sat on a Ferris wheel with Colonel Parker and had this conversation. It's about what it represents and what it stands for. And like that to me was how Elvis would speak and how Elvis would talk. You know what I mean? I like was convinced. And whether that's the script writing, the direction, or just Austin Butler himself, I don't obviously know. I haven't seen the behind the scenes footage. I assume it's an accumulation of all of that. But that to me sold me. Like, girl, I know sitting in front of me is not Elvis acting out his life story, but let's be honest, like it was a pretty good vibe. And the bit that sort of made me not cringe, but sort of go, oh, okay, was the bit where he said it has everything to do with us. And
that's the part where my mom did it.
I was like, oh girl, like what? But
it has everything to do with us.
Wait, sent me. That was it. Like he was in the room.
Do that? No, literally. Hi, Austin.
But you have to respect, like, girl, camera acting. No, this is the thing. A lot of people were saying a tribute artist should have played Elvis or got the role to play Elvis. I think that's completely ridiculous. And I'm just going to say that outright. I'm not going to act like that's a valid point because I don't think it is. Camera acting versus stage acting, Hollywood acting versus like imitation is so different and incomparable to me. Also, this actor has like had to do 3 different eras of Elvis. You've got the 50s, 60s, and 70s to depict, right? That is it's a huge challenge, especially for someone like if you're depicting Elvis. I think a tribute artist would have their own impersonation and style for Elvis and would probably focus on a specific era or have a speciality in a specific era of Elvis. And I think, girl, the idea of a tribute artist playing Elvis is just doesn't sit right with me for so many reasons. It would honestly disrupt the movie for me. It would like give an impression, the wrong impression of Elvis, in my opinion.
I agree. And like I said before, I think acting, girl, like you hire, if you think about it, this is a movie. And honestly, this isn't just like a little indie film. This is Warner Brothers. This is a huge company. This is Baz Luhrmann. And so when he's casting his film, girl, he's going to pick a good actor. And I think having them be a good actor is the most important thing, because when you can act, you can truthfully, even though that's kind of ironic, but like you can truthfully portray somebody and like you know how to go in depth into that character and figure out how to kind of become them in a sense where it's not imitating them. I feel like if it was a tribute artist, even though a tribute artist is different than an impersonator, I'm not saying impersonating them, but like tribute artists are kind of geared in a way where it's like, okay, well, Elvis moved that way on stage, so I'm going to copy that and I'm going to move that way on stage. But
yeah, it's about mimicking.
Right. Well, as an actor, though, you also have to understand them on like an emotional level in order to get their story across in the correct light. And so that's why it's just so important that it has to be an experienced seated actor.
I think so too. Again, drawing on other examples, because I think there has been so many biopics, especially in recent years, ever since Bohemian Rhapsody sort of came out, it's been sort of a fashionable thing. And I think then Rocket Man followed, obviously, about Elton John. And the guy who played Elton John in that, I cannot think of his name. I'm so sorry. I love him.
No, No, but I was going to say the same thing. He was phenomenal.
He was great, but Elton John obviously is still alive and was advising him on, I don't know if it was on the set or in his own time or whatever, and sort of said,
Right.
don't act like me, don't play me, because you
Mm.
already sound and look like me enough. Because no one's going to be convinced if you're out here doing like an impersonation of me that everyone can do. It's sort of that vibe. Like your uncle at every wedding is whipping out his Elvis impersonation. Like, girl, everyone can
Literally
do an Elvis impersonation or an Elton John impersonation, like he was saying. And he's sort of saying, don't act like me, like act like yourself, put yourself in my shoes and act how you would act in the situation, because I'm just a normal person. And that's the vibe, because it's like, you're not like trying to, I'm not going to sit there in the cinema and be like, actually, Elvis wouldn't say the word, I don't even know, girl. Like, girl, I'm not here to nitpick. I'm not here to rip apart someone's like performance, but I am here to be like, girl, does he give the impression of Elvis? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that this is another point I wanted to bring up. We are Elvis fans, girl. We know pretty much all there is to know. I mean, not everything, but like we know a fair amount going into this movie, and we certainly know what Elvis looks like, what he would say, blah, blah, blah. But what we're hoping for is for this movie to reach new groups of people and bring in new generations of fans who don't know the ins and outs of Elvis, who don't know this is how he looked on stage in December 1974. Like, they don't know all this stuff. And so, like, even showing this trailer to my friends, they're like, oh my gosh, he looks just like him and all this other stuff. And I'm not offended by that, because yes, I know that it does it, and it doesn't sound like him in that part, and he wouldn't wear his hair like that, whatever. But like you said, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is like, hopefully what people are going to learn from this movie, and that's what they should be taking away.
Exactly. I think you can nitpick it all you want. There's always going to be something. I mean, Tom Hanks, I was like, does the Colonel talk like that? Like, that was that
I was shocked. But like, honestly, he looked just like him, though. Can we talk about
really
that?
Looked like the special effects, the makeup or whatever they put on. My mom went, has he gained weight for this? Or like, is that a fat suit? What's going on? Like, it looks so convincing. I was like, wow, this is like getting me by the gullet, like killing it. And a lot of people have qualms with like none of the cast, like Gladys Vernon or Priscilla. Like, God, it's not about, that's the most shallow thing you could think to talk about, is like the looks of the cast. It's like, but what if they are literally selling it? Like, it's not to me about what they look like.
That's the thing. And I wanted to backtrack quick to what you were just saying about like, well, I was just going to say, I bring this up in every podcast episode, I swear, but I am a theater major. Girl, we know this.
Love that.
But I got some advice once from these people from London who came to teach a masterclass to us. And they were basically saying, like, when you're playing a character, you're not worrying about like playing the character like somebody else would have played the character. So I'm acting in A Midsummer Night's Dream right now, and I'm playing Hermia. So to get inspiration for Hermia, I might watch another production of Midsummer Night's Dream and take notes or take inspirations or take ideas of how they performed that. But ultimately, it's Mary's version of Hermia in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it's my character of Hermia. It's the same person, but like I'm playing the same person, but it's my version. And so I'm like, this is Asa Butler's version of Elvis. And like, he's not going to be Elvis Presley, and he's not going to be Kurt Russell playing Elvis. He's not going to be all these other people playing Elvis. He's going to be Asa Butler playing Elvis. And I think that's the beauty of it, because he's going to bring things to the table that we've never seen before. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I think that kind of applies.
Yeah, that's what it is exciting, because I honestly haven't seen him in anything myself. I haven't seen any of his previous stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
Just because I haven't. But I'm really, really excited on his behalf, honestly, to see like what he can do with the character. I agree. It's like doing a cover version of a song. It's like no one wants to hear you do Elvis's version of this song. Like, if you're doing a cover of something or like a remake of something, do it different than it's been done before. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it?
Exactly. And like, still find the truth. Like, obviously, as an actor, like, you find the truth of that character and you try to bring that out, but your version isn't going to be identical to, Elvis, and it's not going to be identical to anybody else who's played it. Because I know I've been having conversations with some people who are like, well, like, it's not going to be like when this person played Elvis in this documentary or in this biopic. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't be.
Obviously
Like,
not. Yeah.
It's a new version of it.
Literally go watch that documentary if you want to see that person play Elvis. Like, girl, they've been there,
Literally.
they've done that. As if the director or the casting people are gonna cast someone who's already played him. Like, girl, then there's no point in making a life story, a brand new, supposed to be like, you know, unveiling the curtain, if you're casting someone who's already acted in an Elvis thing that's represented something totally different.
I also think really fast. I also just think that like since Austin Butler, I don't, like you said, I've never seen anything that he's been in before, but I know that he's young, and I know he's been in stuff that young people, girl, as if I'm not young, but like
they're gonna bring him.
People are gonna go to see this movie because it has Tom Hanks or because it has Austin Butler, and the girl who played Priscilla is a big name as well, and that's good as well.
Literally, I remember, I mean, this film has been in anticipation and it was cast a long time ago. And I remember talking about it initially with my friend's sister, which is the randomest thing. But she even said, like, I have a crush on this guy. Like, I'll go see it. Because literally, like, but that's what you want. People are so, like, quick to be like, oh, people only, like, girl, if they're going to go see it, if it's going to get Elvis tea spread, if it's going to get people hyped, why are you dissing it? Like, so many people were like, I did a little thing on my story where you put a little question and people give you like info. So I was like asking people, what do we think of the movie? And so many people were like, Tom Hanks is killing it. Like, Tom Hanks is the reason I'm gonna be part of it. And that's probably true for Tom Hanks himself. He's like, girl, I want to be in this because I want to be in this. Like, I'm literally sold on Tom Hanks being in it, and so will so many people.
Agreed. And yeah, that's another thing about it being such like it's going through such a big not industry, but like brand. I don't know what Warner Brothers is, girl, a brand. I don't know, but like
company. I don't know.
Company, yeah, but like they have like big name actors playing these roles, and I think that is gonna bring like a lot of people to see it because people are Tom Hanks stans. Like, girl, the minute I'm like, oh, they're making a new Elvis movie, it has Tom Hanks in it. Everyone's like, oh, like that sounds really interesting.
Exactly. And the fact he's so heavily put himself behind it too, which is exciting because, I mean, it's a lot to live up to because, like, girl, you never know, like, what direction it's going to take. But I think Tom Hanks has really been pushing it, like, in talk shows and things. He's really got an interesting take and, like, doesn't reveal too much as well, which is good about his performance. But I think when I first heard his voice, I was like, did the Colonel talk like that? Like, I don't know if I've ever heard him fully speak a sentence, like, fully articulated in the way that how Tom Hanks is doing. Because I know he's from the Netherlands, right? Like, he's actually from the Netherlands, the Tom Parker.
Yes.
So he was sort of doing that type of accent, like Dutch vibes. I don't really know.
Dutch, yeah.
And I was like, I guess that's sort of tea then. Like, I honestly, and then after that, it made me want to watch interviews of just the Colonel talking, and he did have that voice, and I was like, tea, like, I'm learning today. He said, shut up and listen. Like,
literally, yeah. And that just shows how much, you know, Tom Hanks put into that, obviously, because he's such a great actor, but how much he put into that character.
Yeah, and it's so sad to say that that's surprising because it just shows the low standard that has been that Elvis films over time. Because I mean, I've seen like people depict Elvis as so, like you said, cheesy and like over the top, and just like, girl, my dad could have done better than that. Like you said, like, girl, like a local person could have done better. But what really excited me and like sort of hooked me in as well in the trailer was the Black perspective at the time as well. He sort of could be seen having this conversation. And I think they've cast a Little Richard, if I'm not wrong. I looked on the IMDb and I think it was a Little Richard was cast. I don't know if this was the person who's meant to be speaking to.
Yeah, why did I think that was Sam Cooke? I don't know if it was.
It might have been. I tried to look at the cast to see, like, obviously who had been named as like in the movie. I think Sam Cooke was as well. I really can't remember, but Little Richard definitely has. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, in the trailer, Elvis is having a conversation with this guy who says, like, girl, you're a famous white boy. And I really, really liked that because honestly, so many Elvis biopics really want to push that Elvis was superior and sort of like, I don't know, sort of erase that side of him and also that perspective. Like, but I think that's such a huge part of the conversation and why Elvis has sort of been seen in controversial lights and things like that. So if they can bring that into the film, I think that's really, really exciting and important as well. And if they didn't, I think it would be so tone deaf.
Definitely. And I think that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, or what we were saying in the beginning too, about them showing him sneaking into the Black like revival Black church thing. And I love the scenography. That's not a word. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Cinematography.
But like, there it is. Cinematography, girl. When they like show him like obviously feeling the music as a little boy in this church, and then it immediately cuts. It immediately cuts. So you're like, that was his inspiration. He's channeling that little inner boy that he had when he was listening to those Black revival church services and getting pumped to that music in church. Like, and then how they also tie in that, you know, I'm glad that they're casting Little Richard and like all these well-known Black artists, because girl, those are his inspirations. That's what he grew up with. And so that's just never been talked about. And that is his roots. Those are his true roots.
And I think to shield that almost puts Elvis in a more controversial light, because it makes Elvis out to be this person who shielded it himself. You know what I mean? Like in the movie making, by ignoring and not casting Black perspective, like, girl, you are making Elvis out to be against it too, you know what I mean, at the same time.
Exactly.
To ignore in the film Black perspective would be to say that Elvis ignored Black perspective himself, and I just think that's just cutting out such a big part of his life and a big part of his career and life story, especially childhood. I just think it's so embarrassing.
No, literally. And I think that is there are I think a top few rumors or like top few controversial myths that surround Elvis, and Elvis stealing Black music is one of them. And I think by showing these things in this movie, that'll nip that in the bud. And I am so ready for that, because that is one of the, if they handle it right, which honestly I'm hopeful that they will after seeing those clips in the trailer. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people don't like Elvis, at least here. I know it's kind of different in the UK, but that'll be just so refreshing to see that like actually portrayed accurately.
Yeah, it's such a big thing with Elvis that most people either love Elvis or don't know about Elvis for that reason. They're like unsure about Elvis. They're like, well, didn't he blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is gonna really sort of, like you said, showcase that, like, girl, no, because they've never given that a chance. They've really never, I'm saying they like it's one person, but like I've never seen anybody try to really give a voice to that side of things.
Yeah, like I said, like this, that's why I'm just so excited for it, because I feel like so many things have just not been talked about. Like,
yeah,
like the Tupelo scene and the Black artist scene, and the when they were talking about like the 68 special and how Elvis was like, I need to get back to who I am, who I really am. And then like the part of like him watching like the assassinations on TV and being like, this has everything to do with us. And like the if I can dream moment, like that stuff is just, it's so important, and it always gets glossed over.
Yeah, and it's really exciting to see, actually. And the fact that, like, I don't know, I'm just really excited that all the eras are being covered in one great big film, because it's gonna make it the definitive Elvis biopic. Like, this is gonna be the thing people go to for the longest of period, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very excited. One of the things I want to point out just as well, I'm just listing the things I noticed now in the trailer, because I just thought it was so exciting to see. The fact that they showed the police scandal, like obviously early on when he wasn't allowed to be shown on TV, and he said, oh my god, they want to arrest me for the way that I'm moving. And they showed again that circus metaphor with the fandom and like the mania that the girls were screaming and stuff, and him just sort of being taken aback by like, girl, what am I doing? Like, am I doing bad? Like, is this evil? And then sort of Gladys being there and being like, no, it's God-given, it can't be wrong.
It can't
Vernon,
be wrong.
just like, they're really including a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and I think even going off of that as well, when they show the scene where Gladys dies, and I know that that's been something that has been done before, but I think like if they do make that connection with Elvis and his mom, very apparent from the beginning, with him growing up in Tupelo and then his mom being there with him through all the controversy and things like that. I think like that's another part of Elvis that kind of gets like looked at in a weird light, is like, oh, he was like really weirdly close to his mom. But I feel like this movie, when they had Elvis and Vernon grieving in that one part, that looked like it was a good sign.
Yeah, and I remember sort of not This Is Elvis, but I think the mini series that's just called Elvis as well. I'm pretty sure it's just called Elvis as well. They showed a lot of like Gladys's funeral.
Yeah,
in that they like talk about that, and I just thought that was like a weird position to take, only because, well, we don't know what sort of happened at that funeral. Like the press sort of invaded that moment with them on the steps. We've all seen that photo of like Vernon and Elvis sort of obviously grieving,
right.
And Elvis in that white shirt that obviously she made for him and stuff like that. I think those little details in the trailer especially are being shown. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm quite excited. Like, obviously, you've got the first-hand stories of people being like, "Oh, Elvis threw himself on his mom's open casket and was like sobbing and stuff." So it was really interesting to see like that raw side of things and really empathize with Elvis, as well as like,
yes,
you know, I don't know, see him as a real person rather than, again, like a caricature.
definitely, yeah. That unveiling, which I hope kind of like generally throughout this whole film, like they do kind of strip away that, because I think watching the trailer, there are so many iconic moments and like iconic images of Elvis, like on stage with the jumpsuits or in the black leather, or like on stage in the 50s and things like that. But then there are also so many like very raw and real moments, like him with Lisa Marie, and like the moment of him waving goodbye to her as he's like getting ready to leave for tour, and like the quote, like, I'm gonna be 40 soon, and they're all gonna forget about me, like that stuff. It just kind of strips away like all this stuff that everybody always thinks of when it comes to Elvis, and shows him in a very human light. And
Yeah.
That was very emotional, girl. That was emotional to see, because I was like, they included the freaking like everyone's gonna forget about me quote, and I lost it. I was like, that needed to be in there, and I didn't even know it.
That was really cool. Yeah, I liked that a lot. I liked the bit with Lisa Marie, as you said, sort of, I think you said this, that toy between his career and personal life, and sort of, you know, his relationship with everyone around him and how complex it really was. I mean, yes. I don't know if you caught, there was a woman sat next to him in the car in that scene. I think there was, anyway. I thought maybe that's Linda vibes, or like someone, I don't know if they'll name her, I don't know. But, okay. I think there was a woman next to him anyway. I could be wrong. But they're sort of giving that Nixon era, especially in that one with the Sunnies and stuff. So it's like they're really going in on like the tea. Like I was really excited to see it, and like how far they go. Again, I do think they gave too much away in the trailer, just because I think, girl, now they have a lot to live up to, and also obviously trailers are edited, and I think the music in the trailer might not necessarily be the music they use in the movie, or like the quotes will be in different places in the movie than they're just put as a backtrack. Like he just said that out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So it's like, it'll be interesting to see the full thing put together in the order they've chosen it to be in, like what music they choose. Because I think the use of the music in the trailer is what really, really got to me first, especially with the electric guitar. I really was shook. And then they showed him playing the piano. And the colonel sort of being like taken aback by that for some reason. He was just like, because he never really saw Elvis in the way Elvis wanted to be seen as an artist, you know what I mean, in that light. Like he sort of never really got it, that side of things. Like he understood, oh my god, girls go crazy for him, money signs in my eyes, like, you know, I have to capitalize on this, which you saw in the first scene when he sees him come out in his little pink suit or whatever, and Tom Hanks as the colonel obviously looking at this woman screaming and be like, what is she doing? And then he said, Elvis was my destiny. I thought that was so cool. I was like, that's so interesting, because I've never really thought about, I mean, I have thought about it, but no one's ever really delved into the colonel's perspective and point of view of like, people make me out to be the villain of this story. He said that was the opening line. That they're gonna change minds about that almost. And then the closing line, which got a lot of people obviously emotionally, was Tom Hanks saying, "We're two odd lonely children reaching for eternity." That sent me.
Okay, true. And I know that's like a common consensus kind of around the Elvis community, but as much as I might not agree with a lot of the things the Colonel did, I know that me and you have talked about the Colonel a lot, whether it be on lives or whatever it is, but we have always been pushing for, like, we don't agree with everything the Colonel does or everything Priscilla does or even everything Elvis did. But at the end of the day, they are human beings and they are not villains. Like, nobody is a villain in this story.
True.
They are human beings. And I think that so many people don't like the Colonel. And I'm not going to say I'm a Colonel fan either. But I think that if this movie can show, like, not like, yes, it's, I hope, going to show like a more human side of Elvis, but at the same time, those quotes that you just pointed out, I have empathy for the Colonel as well, and I'm seeing him in a much more human light as well. Like, he wasn't just like, oh, like, what tactic can I use today to ruin Elvis Presley's life? Like, it's not that. It's like at the end when he was saying, like, we're just both like two guys trying to figure out what the heck we're doing with our life.
You and me are the same and stuff like that. And that sent me, because in order to take Elvis off a pedestal, you need to take other people out of the gutter and understand that they're all on a level. Like Tom Hanks said, we're all the same. Like, girl, we're all on the same level here. No one's like, and that's what I really liked. I wrote this down. It's going to be a life story, not a love story. Because in a love story, you need a love interest, you need a knight in shining armor, you need a king and queen, and you need a villain. You always need a villain someone to root against and someone to root for. You need a victim almost. You need blah, blah, blah. It's like, girl, this film, I don't think will paint Elvis as any of those things. It's going to paint him as Elvis, like, right? It's not going to put him on this pedestal, because it's not putting the Colonel in this place of like villainy and bullshit, which is like, girl, you can say I think Tom Hanks said, there was a quote, and he said, I think he was a genius, but also a scoundrel, talking about the Colonel. And I think that's such an interesting perspective to take, because, girl, so many people see him as this polarizing character, right? Like, either you hate him, like, girl, he did Elvis dirt, he killed Elvis off, he did all this stuff, or you think, girl, you know what? He had the right idea, he was a good manager, he was obviously out for the money, but that's what he was hired to do, whatever. You know, you can either say, oh my God, genius, or oh my God, evil. But I think Tom Hanks had this cool perspective of like, girl, he was both. Like, he was out here being a businessman, but also being cutthroat and ruthless and like sort of a little bit of a scoundrel. That's what he said. And I was like, that's so funny to me, but also true. Like, and that shows that his portrayal is going to be truthful rather than trying to sell some weird narrative. I don't know. I just think it's going to be really good by the trailer anyway. I'm really excited to see it.
I do just have one, I don't know, for wrapping up, but I have this one other thought that, like,
keep it going.
Okay, period. Girl, please. I remember in the beginning how it was obviously Tom Hanks as the Colonel. It was his narration, but he was saying like something along the lines of like, are you born with destiny, or like, do you find it, or like whatever. And it was that narration, but showing Elvis at the Black church, and like Elvis before he was Elvis, you know, the superstar. And so I was like, okay, like, period. They're talking about like Elvis finding his destiny, his purpose, his like what he's meant to do. But then it cut to like the Colonel finding Elvis and being like, he was my destiny. And then at the end, it was talking about like, we're the same. We're just two people searching for our eternity, our souls, our destiny. And so like, it was cool to see like how they connected that, like Elvis finding his destiny and Colonel finding his at the same, like in the same kind of moment in time. Cause I think if you're like me, your mind was going like, okay, this is gonna be about like Elvis finding his purpose, but it was also about Colonel finding his purpose as well.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that they've used that really to equip the Colonel as sort of a secondary main character. You know what I mean? Obviously, and I think it's such an original take. I think something no one's ever really sought out to do, because it's so easy to paint him as this villain, because girl, it fits right in. Like, girl, we love Elvis, we hate the Colonel, like, period.
Right.
I think they're not going to stray too far from that. I don't think they're going to make the Colonel out to be like the best person in the world, because he wasn't.
Right.
But it really just showed, like, girl, if you open up your mind, what? If you, like, you know, have an open mind and, like, change your perspective a little bit, you can see how, like you said, the Colonel, through Elvis, was trying to pursue his dreams and his ambitions.
Right. And nobody should be villainized. And like that's the main, like the truthful part of Elvis's story. Like that's just, we want a truthful, accurate biopic, but in order to get that, we can't paint anybody as the villain, because nobody ruined like Elvis's life. Like, yeah, the 60s were trash and there were reasons that the 60s were trash for him, but that wasn't his entire life. Like he was he bounced back after that. He had a great run. And so I don't know. I think that in order to get a truthful movie, it's going to have to be truthful on all sides. Like you were saying, like you need to pull people out of the gutter in order to pull Elvis off the pedestal.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think the perspective that's also the perspective that's always lost again is the Black perspective at the time. I think is always either like briefly done or sort of brushed over or whatever. Like they always sort of bring up maybe Martin Luther King or maybe the fact Elvis was born in the ghetto, but essentially, like, girl. But in this one, this conversation he was supposedly having with this guy really sent me and like sold me, I think, like, because he says sort of something like, oh, they want to arrest me just for being on stage, just for how I move when I sing. And this guy goes, well, they could arrest me for walking down the street. You're a famous white guy.
Right.
And that was so interesting to hear, because it's like, girl, if you really put it into perspective, like, you can complain all you want, like, oh my god, Elvis was so demonized, Elvis was so, I don't know, villainized at the time, because so many people at the time, like churches, were against Elvis and saying, girl, he's a demon, he's a devil,
right?
All because they were afraid of ultimately like segregation becoming ending, like the end of segregation. That's what they were really scared of. Girl, they weren't out here thinking Elvis is a demon. Like, they were just against like Black people's style, music, dancing, all of that stuff, because they saw it as, obviously, girl, they were just racist. They were out here being racist. It was
a threat. Right. It was a threat of bringing Black inspiration to mainstream white America, and like that was a threat to them.
And Elvis was a huge vehicle in obviously bringing that to white teenagers at the time, because, God, they never heard anything like it, because how are you meant to when it's so filtered and so censored and so, you know, kept from you? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But that idea to say, well, Elvis, you're just sort of, you are a tool in that narrative, which is really just, it really got me, because I just agree. I just really agreed that, like, Elvis was just a way, a gate, or a bridge. I don't know. He was just, what would you say? Like, I don't know. The step needed to take, the necessary tool for all these other people to come into the mainstream and actually get their material out there and shown and into the white media, which obviously controls everything. So we get, you know, more representation. Essentially, Elvis is the tool to get more Black representation legally, literally legally, because it was illegal for know, Black people to sing on white radio stations, blah blah blah. Right. We all know that. Like, girl, take a history lesson. We all know that. But I think Elvis biopics really, really shy away from that, because they don't want to come across like, well, this story is about Elvis, it's not about anything else. I think they're really going to be like, no, this story isn't just about Elvis. Elvis is a tool in so many other people's destinies, just like the Colonel's, just like, girl, Priscilla's ultimate, like, story as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just one person's perspective. It's going to be everyone's.
Right.
Does that make sense? I don't even know.
No, definitely. And we did do an episode a while back about like Black artists and their opinion on Elvis and everything. And it's one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's so misunderstood. But if you listen to multiple Black artists of the time, they describe, just like you were saying, Elvis was he opened the doors. He opened the doors for them to have their voices heard and their talents recognized in a time where they weren't even allowed on the radio, or like they weren't allowed. Nobody had like their records in their homes as a white family in America. Like Elvis, he that was his inspiration. That was his roots. He grew up with that music, and he was the one who exposed it to all these new people, or all these new, a new generation, a new race of people, whatever you want to say. But he was really the one who opened up the doors for so many artists.
I think it's going to really help that conversation, because so many people I see, mostly online, never in person, sort of. It's mostly online. I get a lot. I don't get it. I see a lot of like, oh, Elvis stole black music, and like, because obviously nowadays we all want to be informed, we all want to be woke, whatever. I mean, that sort of thing, and we want to know the facts. We want to know the truth. I mean, cancel culture is such a huge thing, and like one wrong move and you can be, girl, hashtag cancelled. I don't even know.
No, literally.
But I think the film especially is going to really open that conversation as to, okay, what really happened? Because Elvis stealing black music, that's the wildest, randomest. It's like, can you really go into what that means? Like, can you really explain what that means as someone who just whips out that line at any point of someone praising Elvis? Well, he stole black music. What does that mean? Like, exactly. I actually want to know that perspective, because, girl, what? Like, how do you steal? You know what I mean?
You can't. Right.
I get what people are saying, but I think in the film they're going to show that exact perspective. They're going to show, well, the black perspective. They're going to show, well, Elvis, you need to use this success you're getting as a white man singing black music, quote unquote black music, as a tool for the rest of us. You know what I mean? And I think it's going to really open that conversation as to like why that's the case, why that happened, why that was even allowed to happen, and why it was necessary to happen.
Exactly. And yeah, like you were saying about stealing music, that would have to mean that Elvis was like actively seeking out, like during his career, like, okay, so I know that these people have made these songs that aren't really getting played, so I'll sing them and make sure, like, that wasn't his like inner monologue as he rose to fame. Like, and there's literally proof of him in the 50s and also like in the 70s when he's on stage saying like, and even the 60s special has that huge scene where he's like, girl, this is like my inspiration, these are my roots, and these are the people who sang this music long before I was even here. There are direct quotes of him saying like, this song was written by this amazing artist, or rock and roll was invented by these amazing people, and I'm just singing their music, girl. Like, and so I feel like, this movie is going to be a light to that, and that's so important, especially today.
Yeah, I think it's such a big deal to bring that into the light, because, girl, people love to whip out that one in debates, don't they?
Oh yeah.
And it's just gonna make people, I don't know, be more educated, and it's more accessible. I understand, girl, if you don't want to do your research, don't do your research. I don't give a fuck. But don't come arguing to me about this and that when I've done my research and you haven't. But I think this film will enable people to maybe understand a little better and a little bit easier. It's an easier form of research, isn't it, going to see a film?
Definitely, yeah. Instead of reading articles or books or anything, like we always push like, oh, the most important Elvis books to read. But some people who could literally care less about Elvis because they literally think he's racist are not going to read those books. But this movie is obviously a beautiful feature film that people can go see in an hour or two or whatever, and get schooled a little bit.
Yeah, and I know there's no knocking that. Like, I honestly think it's such a good medium to learn. Because, like, girl, I didn't know shit about Elton John. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And
exactly.
You know what? It's going to do Elvis a service like it's done the other people they've done biopics on a service. I mean, I think there's a whole conversation to be had about how that's such a big trend. ATM is like, ATM at the minute.
Girl, the ATM, did you get your money? Girl, please.
Get your cash out for the movie.
Please.
No, but literally, I'm going to see it like 3 times.
I'm so excited. That's another thing I wanted to talk about quick is like, I think it's only being showed one day. Am I wrong on that?
You're not right.
I'm not right.
What do you mean it's being showed one day? That's not true.
It's only being shown on June 24th.
Girl, that's when it comes out. That's the like day it drops.
It literally says only in theaters June 24th.
Only in theaters means it's only in theaters. It means it's not going to be on streaming services and things like that. Okay. Every movie that comes out says only in theaters on this like it doesn't mean it's only going to be in theaters on one day. On that day. Girl, you're not going to get it on DVD.
Period. Okay,
you are so funny.
I know, because a lot of people have been in my DMs being like, girl, like the movie night is gonna be all over the world. I'm like, true, because I guess I can have I can't see it any other night, but
that is sending me, girl, what?
Girl, literally, my mom was like, why are they only showing it one night? I was like, girl, good question, I don't know.
Okay, I was just gonna say, Baz Luhrmann, didn't he direct Romeo and Juliet starring Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, and Great Gatsby.
And The Great Gatsby starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I love those movies. I know people hate The Great Gatsby movie. I love it.
It's stunning. If anything, it's stunning.
I think it's beautiful. I think the Leonardo DiCaprio... I keep saying the Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Girl,
you can just call him Leo, girl, please.
Leo. Romeo and Juliet is a beautiful film if you've ever seen it. Like the use of music, the use of lighting, the cast... It's just really well done. Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really good. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Elvis being portrayed in by this director specifically. Because girl, two of my worlds are uniting because I love those movies and I love Elvis. It's gonna be a sick moment. If you told me 3 years ago, The Great Gatsby, Elvis, girl, I'm obsessed.
Literally, and I've seen so many people. I've been seeing so many people talk about the aesthetics of the trailer and how visually gorgeous it is, and I couldn't agree more.
He is so good at that, and
yes,
I'm so hyped to see it. I'm so hyped at the hype.
Girl, I'm hyped at the hype too. The whole community is going off, and I love it.
And also, people outside of the community, people I know, are talking about it. So it's really exciting.
No, literally, I went to school today and one of my friends was like, Mary, did you hear that they're making an Elvis movie? And I was like, did you see the trailer? We were vibing over it, and I love that.
I love that it's in the conversation at the minute because girl, he doesn't get a lot of exposure like this.
Definitely not. And I know it's different, like I said, over there, but here in the US, Elvis he's not as big as he is in the UK, especially not in little
not
towns
as relevant.
Mine. Right, yeah. I mean, obviously everybody knows him, and there are people obviously I have so many Elvis friends who live in the US, but they're just spread out. So I feel thinking, in my area, he's not the biggest.
I feel it's because Elvis is iconic but not necessarily relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this will push him back up.
And this will kind of give him some tea. I think Aitor said on the podcast where you interviewed him that the Philharmonic Orchestra album, it was number 1 over here in the UK.
Yeah.
But I know it wasn't in the US, or it didn't have as much success. I don't know. Right. It didn't go as high on the charts as it did over here. So that just sort of gave me a little insight. I'm people over here really, really like Elvis a lot. And I knew that anyway, just from living here, especially just where I live, they really do like Elvis.
Yeah.
And I can't pinpoint exactly why. Obviously, girl, everyone loves Elvis. It's not girl, they should hate him. I don't know why they like him. But
literally,
it's sort of interesting how, I mean, that could be a podcast in itself, how here he's really relevant. I don't know.
Yeah. And I also think people here love Tom Hanks, and obviously not in the same way, but they'll go to see this movie we were talking about before for Tom Hanks, and that'll also just give more exposure in that way. So
I agree definitely. Tom Hanks is a big sell point.
Yeah, big draw.
Definitely. Okay, I know you wanted to point out some concerns you had after watching the trailer and just how they're going to deliver some of the heavier topics.
Yeah, for sure. I think I have only 2 concerns. I just do want to preface this saying though, I'm not focusing on these right now. I don't want to focus on them because they're not even talked about in the trailer.
It's
or
just
really
a question in your mind.
Right, because it is such a big part of Elvis's his whole life. Like, this is his whole life, was the prescription medication situation. And my only concern is that I hope that they do him justice and accurately depict his struggle and the truthfulness behind why he started medication and why he continued with medication. I honestly don't even have the energy to go into that more.
You've done it in previous episodes, so I think everyone sort of understands the standpoint and the hopes we have.
Right. Yeah. I think that is gonna really make or break it for me, because I did see a couple scenes in the trailer. While it didn't necessarily address like pills or anything, like I saw a couple scenes of him like very sweaty, like laying down, or there was a scene where
I was into it,
but there was like, yeah, I think that was a scene. It was like late 70s maybe, and like someone was like almost holding his face, and he was like very sweaty. He almost looked like he was gonna pass out. I don't know really what was going on.
Yeah, he looked like he was passing out, or just very exhaustion was happening. Exhaustion, right?
And that wasn't like a concern for me, like how they handled that in the trailer, but it just like that made my mind, you know, sparked a light in my mind where it was like, how are they gonna handle that? Because, you know, it was present from the 50s till the 70s, and they're covering all of those decades. So I'm hoping. And again, that goes back to me saying, like, I know Baz Luhrmann is an Elvis fan, and I know he's working with EPE for this movie, and I know those kind of things about this. So I have high hopes that it's going to be handled in a respectful and also, most importantly, accurate and truthful manner, because it is such a big part of Elvis's life.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they show his journey with that. Yeah. Because I think there's so many, like you said, misconceptions about when he started and how it slowly started to affect him more severely, obviously, toward the end of his life. But that scene kind of got me, like, intrigued me. I was like, wow, they're gonna go gritty, and I kind of respected it. Like, I kind of was into it, and I'm really excited to see the performance, because in that little clip, again, the trailer obviously is going to be edited differently from the film itself, right? But I think just in that clip, I was like, he looks good. Like, not good, girl, what? He looks convincing. He looks good.
No, actually, no, but convincing is a good way to put it. And that also makes me think, I'm glad you brought up Rocketman earlier, because they obviously, Elton John struggled with maybe not the same type of substance abuse that Elvis struggled with, but he did have an addiction problem. But watching Rocketman, I didn't come away from it being like, oh, he was a drug addict. He was a druggie, which I think a lot of people view Elvis in that light. But coming away from Rocketman, I was like, I have so much empathy for him right now, and like what he went through in his life story and his struggles and everything. He might have not been taking prescription medication for health issues, but he was taking them for mental health issues. And like, girl,
I just think, you know, it depends on how you view. I mean, this could get heavy right now, and this is towards the end anyway, but it depends on how, not you specifically, but how just any individual views, you know, recreational versus prescription drugs and the use of those drugs, obviously. And I think it's such a big thing of rock stars specifically, obviously, as
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Exactly, as drug users, is such a big thing, and could so easily be depicted similarly for Elvis, because obviously it's that vibe. Like, it on the surface can give that vibe, you know what I mean? And it could so easily take a turn,
right?
That you just assume that it's a similar vibe for Elvis. Like, oh, it's just like, that's his life, chasing the high, living for now. Like, I don't even know. But literally, like, to boldly delve into like the tea and the medical and the mental, psychological reasoning and all of that stuff will be so interesting, because I know so many Elvis researchers who love that side of things, not love that side of things, who are interested in that side of things, but so many who also just brush it off and say Elvis was chasing high, Elvis was just a druggie, blah blah blah, and they sort of accept that as the truth. And I think, girl, if you just delved in a little deeper, as I hope this film will, and talk and address like actually addiction and its many levels according to Elvis, and like how he really did use drugs, because it's such a specific thing to an individual of how they use drugs. Like you said in Rocketman, like, it's gonna hopefully be a different perspective when Elvis is going to be using drugs in the film.
Right. Agreed. 100%.
Yeah, so that's another thing I'm excited to see. Not excited to see. Girl, anticipating? I don't know.
Yeah, eager to see how they handle that.
Yeah.
And also, I did had one other thing that I was just a little bit not, I don't know, eager to see, not concerned, but like eager to see how they handle it is the Priscilla thing. Because I know they did cast a Priscilla, obviously. She's in the trailer, she's in the film. And I just am eager to see how they introduce her, how they introduce their relationship, and kind of go about that side of things. Because I know that that's a very big story or drawback when it comes to Elvis as well. And so I'm interested.
I think, yeah, like you said, it'd be interesting to see how important she is to their version of the story, because in a lot of them they sort of take Priscilla herself's like sort of perspective on things, right? Like Elvis and Me is obviously Priscilla's story, hello, but it's so heavily based on his life with her, the love life side of things. And so many other biopics, where they fail is taking Elvis and Me to be Elvis's life story rather than a love story he had with one woman in one instance. You know what I mean? And I think what this film, where it will succeed, hopefully, is not just Priscilla's perspective being taken into account and not just a love story being taken into account, as is so evident from the trailer that they're not going to do that anyway. But I'll be interested to see how important they make Priscilla, because I honestly think if you follow the timeline of things, there's such a huge chunk of Elvis's life where he had met Priscilla, but she's not necessarily a key individual in his life. She's not necessarily as important or as, frequently in his life as she, at the height of their relationship, she might have like seen him every day. Obviously, girl, they lived together and like had his child and been married to him and things like that. But girl, they weren't that close for the whole of the time they knew each other. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think where other ones fail is like they show Priscilla, oh, you met Elvis at this age, and for that whole period of time up until you divorced, you were as close as two lovers should be. You know what I mean? And it's like, girl, he met her at one instance, and there's this whole chunk where they didn't speak and like they didn't really know each other. They didn't like see each other every day. And it's like, girl, you need to be truthful with the timeline of things. Like, he didn't see her for a long time after they met. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes. And yeah, I think having it be the movie, having it include so many different times in Elvis's life and really covering those 3 decades, I think it'll be definitely interesting to see how Priscilla's story is shared, but also how, you said Dixie or maybe even Linda or like other relationships, even like outside of girlfriends, like Gladys and Vernon and like obviously Parker, but that I think like Steve Bender or Binder, I think Binder his name is.
Binder.
He was in it. Yes, and like he played a pretty big part in the trailer. Not big part, but like there were some scenes with him in there as well. And so I'm just interested, overall to see how they touch on Elvis's different relationships and how they all affected him and the timeline of things.
Yeah, me too. I'm very, like I said, waiting and ready. And I think when it comes out, after we both see it, we can come back and sort of regroup and
definitely
discuss it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And I also do want to say, closing off, this was kind of my closing statement that I had before, but like, I remember this one quote that I read this one time that was like, you could be the juiciest, ripest peach on the whole planet, and there's going to just be somebody out there that doesn't like peaches. And I think that really just applies to everything, honestly, about, humans and just this movie as well. Like, this movie could be the best, and we could love it as Elvis fans, but then at the end of the day, there are going to be people out there who will still have a problem and still have something to nitpick.
Of course. And I think going into it, it's best to have no expectations and try not to sit there and nitpick. Just try to enjoy it. Don't force yourself to like it, obviously, but try to view it and be have fun.
Right. Yeah, and exactly.
Go to the cinema, get some popcorn, get some soda.
Vibe, girl. Just vibe.
I only said soda so you would understand me. Language
do you call
barrier.
it? Pop? No, you don't call it pop.
Yeah.
Fizzy. No, fizz.
No, I'd call girl, I'm about to tell you.
Literally, I'm like, you're like, no, I'm like, oh wait, you want pop, fizz, carbonation?
Girl, I'd call it pop or fizzy pop.
Fizzy, that's what I was thinking of, fizzy pop. The way I just didn't shut up. I'm so sorry.
They're like, no, you call it fizz bang whizzy woo. Like, great. Ickle pickle, girl, great.
Girl, at the end of the day, leaving off with this, honestly, Elvis is being remembered 45 years after he has left the earth. And I think that he deserves it more than literally anybody. And he deserves it. And I'm so excited for him, period.
I think it's come at a really good time because he's just recently now been dead longer than he was alive.
Yes, so this is the 45th anniversary this year, so pretty big anniversary, and he passed away when he was 42 now, so for 3 years.
So I think it's come at really just about the best time because, girl, it's just showing like even after 2 lifetimes, Elvis is perfectly fine. Like he's
not going anywhere.
He's literally out here living. And what's really interesting is they included that quote, this could all be over in a flash, him saying that. And it's like, that's just so, the irony of that now is so funny to me.
Yeah, and the lightning bolt, how you were saying in the beginning, how it's that ties into it as well.
I don't know why I gasped like that. Like, I didn't bring that up. I'm like,
what? No, literally, I didn't even say that. Wait, please. No, but like, TCB, everyone. Girl, please.
TCB. The girl's just wrapping up. At the end of the day, TCB and boo boo bow. Like,
at the end of the day, TCB with TLC. Mwah.
No, definitely gave me the chills.
No, I'm pumped and I'm ready and I'm excited. And I hope we get more teasers. Maybe we'll get a scene. Oh, I don't know.
I hope we don't, because that trailer was honestly 10 hours long.
Yeah, Maggie's like, I don't want anything else, which is fair, honestly. And we just need to be patient.
My dad literally got up out of his chair. He was like, they need to stop showing us everything. Girl, he was like, I feel like I've watched the whole movie. I'm out of here. I was like,
no, Gary's like, do not show me another gosh darn thing.
My dad likes to be surprised when he goes into a film. He will not sit through a film. He knows what's going to happen. Even though, girl, you know Elvis's life story. What are you doing? He's like, no, I can't.
Literally, wait.
That's so funny. Literally, my dad knowing the ins and outs of Elvis's wardrobe. He's like, what are they showing me? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised. Is that an American Eagle jumpsuit? No.
Literally, my dad watching That's the Way It Is every night of his life. He's like, Elvis on tour? Like...
Oh no. Okay, we need to wrap this up.
Brilliant, hilarious, unstoppable. Okay, bye.
Wait, we gotta do the outro. Don't leave me. No, shh.
Oh wow. Did you catch that, everyone? Abuse in the home?
Wait, the way you started when I was having a mental breakdown. Hold on. Okay.
Oh my love. Sorry.
What?
I was being Elvis.
This is too. What song was that, girl?
My darling. What do you mean? What song was that?
I thought you said home. I was like, what?
Home is where the heart is. Girl, stop.
Literally, I was like, hold on. Okay. I love you, Maggie. I love you so much.
I love you too. It really put me in an Elvis mood. Can I just add that? Like, I was not in an Elvis mood at all. I don't know what's wrong with me. I had hepatitis. I don't know. And I didn't. But like, I really was not up for Elvis right now, which is a weird feeling when you're an Elvis girl.
Literally.
But it happens to me every couple months. I don't know. I go into like hibernation. I'm like, Elvis, stop! Like, I don't know. Literally.
But now you're
this trailer dropping. I was like, you know what? I'm a fake fan. Like, I'm in and I'm doing it.
I'm so excited. And this summer is just going to be awesome because we have so many fun things coming up. I'm just pumped. I'm pumped.
We won't tell them.
We won't tell, but you guys will find out. And I just think that this summer is it's going to be a huge Elvis summer. And I am so pumped.
Oh, my love.
Wait,
we're going to get copywritten.
My darling. My favorite Elvis song in the whole planet. Really? Until we meet again.
May God bless you.
Adios. Yeah. Okay. Cut that out.